Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us for our beautiful Worthy Collective on a Monday. I have an introduction that I want to make sure that you know all about because our Worthy Collective is something very special. This is not just a community, it's a sacred space for your soul to breathe again. A place where women come from every walk of life. We come to rise in their health, in our wealth, our faith, purpose, and presence. Here, there's no hierarchy, no comparison, no pretending, only truth, only grace, only women remembering who they are together. We believe growth doesn't have one timeline or one look. Some days it's rising boldly, other days it's resting bravely. Both are worthy, both are growth. You're not behind, you're not too late, you're right on time for your next becoming. In this space, you'll find encouragement, accountability, and sisterhood that reminds you you can build your dreams without burnout. You can walk in faith and not fear, and you can create a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. Welcome home to the Worthy Collective, where grace meets growth, purpose meets peace, and women rise side by side. So thank you for joining us. I am teaching tonight, and so I am excited to use my beautiful skills in my presenting. And this week it's going to be better than last week because I tried something different. So this message tonight is very, very special because it's something we end up doing that can happen and we don't even realize it. So, tonight's message, the execution of discipline. Oh, that sounds so heavy. Yeah, we're going to walk side by side through this and recognizing that we all have a an opportunity to learn, to grow, and the problem isn't that you can't do it. Most people think their problem is motivation and it's not. Most people think their problem is discipline. It's not. You might think that it's time. The real problem is trust, not trusting in others, trusting in yourself. Every time you say, I'll start Monday, I'll make the call tomorrow, I'll finish it later, and then you don't, you teach your brain something. You teach your brain to say, I can't count on me. The problem isn't that you can't do it. The problem is that somewhere along the way, you stopped believing that you could. The problem is not that somewhere along the way that you stop believing that it would. And so here we are. You get to ask yourself a very special question. What promise have you made to yourself so many times that you no longer believe that you'll keep it? This is where our work begins tonight, and I'll put it in the chat so that you have something to write down and be able to journal. So we're going to conquer this together. So every unfinished commitment leaves a wound. Most people think unfinished goals disappear. They don't. They actually accumulate. Every unfinished commitment becomes emotional clutter. The workout program, the business idea, the book, the conversation, the dream, the application, the certification, the relationship, the thing you keep saying that you'll do someday. It all stays with you. And every time you think about it, your brain whispers, you still haven't done it. That's exhausting. Not because the task is heavy, but because the guilt is. Guilt can weigh tons. What you don't complete continues to compete for your attention. So here's a question. What unfinished commitment is still taking up space in your mind today? What is it costing you when it comes to energy simply because it remains unfinished? So those are some things that you can really journal. You can decide, put this, save this so that you can sit down and look over this tomorrow, tonight, as soon as you make an appointment for yourself and with yourself. The hardest person to keep disappointing is yourself. This is where it gets personal. Many of us show up beautifully for everybody else. We show up for kids, spouses, clients, employees, friends, community. But somewhere along the way, we stop showing up for ourselves. We abandon our own dreams. We postpone our own healing. We ignore our own needs. And we break promises to ourselves while keeping promises to everybody else. And eventually we wonder, why don't I feel confident? Because confidence grows where trust exists, and trust grows where consistency exists. So here's your ask. Where have I been abandoning myself while taking care of everyone else? What does your future self need to stop postponing? I'm bringing the fire, giving yourself a chance to ask some deep and meaningful questions so that you truly can have a shift. What story have you been believing? This is a good one. I've talked to a number of people recognizing what is the first thing you share when somebody says, "Tell me a little bit about yourself." And this could be in dating, this could be in an interview, this could be in networking, and being able to know that that question is really going to come up. It's in anything and everything that we do. So, what story have you been believing? Most people don't have a discipline problem, they have a story problem. The story sounds like, I don't have enough time, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not ready, it has to be perfect, maybe next month. What if I fail? Well, here's the truth. Most stories are fear disguised as facts. I say that again. Most stories are fear disguised as facts. And what we repeatedly tell ourselves becomes our reality. The obstacles isn't the goal. Obstacle is the story. And because stories create identity, identity creates the behavior. And then the behavior creates the results or the lack of results. So here's your ask. What story have you been believing that keeps you stuck? And more importantly, is it actually true? That's a good question to ask yourself. And recognizing a lot of the work we've talked about with David Baer in his book, The Changed Mind, is so many times we talk about our limiting beliefs and we realize what's limiting us is really not even true. It's kind of silly if we walk ourselves through a process of being able to journal. And then what we look around is we're like, wait a second, there's evidence that this is completely untrue. Does somebody have a question? I wasn't sure. Okay, that was a commercial break. Okay, can you see my screen okay? Okay, so stories are important to really catch yourself as to what story you're telling yourself and what is the story that you're telling someone else. The obstacle isn't the goal, the obstacle is the story that you say to yourself and or to others. So most people quit here. Most people quit here. Where's here? In the middle, not at the beginning. The beginning is exciting. Most people don't quit at the finish line. The finish line is visible, it's exciting. Most people quit right in the middle. The middle is where the excitement will fade, the results will slow, nobody's cheering, progress feels invisible, And this is where discipline is born. Because discipline is simply doing what matters after motivation leaves. The bridge between who you are and who you're becoming is follow through. Transformation is truly where it lives right in the middle because that's where you start seeing the results. They might be slow, they might be small, yet it's something right in the middle. So here's the ask. Where in your life are you standing in the middle right now? What would happen if you refused to quit? And these questions are really powerful because you see, it's really interesting. I kept working on this photo and I was like, well, wait a second. The bridge is in between. It should be connecting. The nets are connecting, it looks like, in these lovely little mountains of who I am and who I'm called to become. But sometimes we go to the middle and then we divert and we miss the opportunity to see to the other side of the mountain. And when you climb that mountain, it's hard, and you get up there and you start to see something new, better, and more beautiful because you're at a higher ground. So again, most people quit here, not at the beginning, not at the end, in the middle, the place where excitement ends and discipline begins. All right, well, if you're familiar with me, you're familiar with the shift. This is where everything changes, not because your circumstances change, because you change. Self-awareness, it stands for the S. What have I been avoiding? What unfinished commitment keeps showing up? You cannot change what you refuse to face. Let me put that one in the chat. I'm going to need to put that one out loud because that one is really key to a great amount of change. Self-awareness. What have I been avoiding? What unfinished commitment keeps showing up? You cannot change what you refuse to face. Now for the H. Honesty. What is real reason? What is the real reason? Not the excuse, the truth. What story have I been believing? Where there is truth, there is freedom. The truth is where the freedom will begin. And what's so powerful about this is that when you stop hiding, you start being real, and then people are like drawn to you like a magnet because there's that opportunity of saying, "Oh my gosh, yeah, me too." Yeah, I 100% feel the same. And next would be the intentional action. What is the next step? How many times have I been in your head? Okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? Not the entire staircase, just what's next. Not the entire year, just the next step. Action will create momentum. So intentional action. Always asking yourself, what is the next step? And that was really good. Somebody told me that when the kids were little. So many times I'd worry about things, especially when Lucy was really, really young, being a preemie. And it was like I could not think about first grade. I couldn't think about college. I couldn't think about anything. I only need to think about today. I only need to think about this week. I only need to think about this month. And even that was too much. So it was one step in front of the other, especially with two middle schoolers right now, one step in front of the other. What's next? Not the entire staircase, not the entire year. The next step. Action will create momentum. And then we get to step into focus. Focus. What distraction must go? What deserves my attention right now? Where focus goes, energy flows. Oh my goodness. Isn't that powerful? So many times we had done the Dave Ramsey financial piece, and where your money goes, that's also your attention. That's what you show your value and importance to. So focus. What distraction must go? What deserves my attention right now? Where focus goes, energy flows. You must protect your attention. And last but not least, in the actual shift is the transformation. Who am I becoming by finishing this? Because this was never about the goal. This was always about the person you're becoming in pursuit of the goal. So this is a simple question. Really, it is. It feels like it's so much more, yet it's really simple. What shift do you need to make tonight? The power of a decision is absolutely priceless. You don't have to rise overnight. It's a matter of choosing into that one simple decision that you're going to shift. What shift do you need to make tonight? Because when you become a finisher, then you can start looking at things in a different light. Small, consistent choices create lasting change. Now, your shift. What's so beautiful about that shift? The new you is built one decision at a time, one day at a time. And that shift is always possible. We can flip the script. We can find the good in any situation, even though in the midst of it, we might be sitting in a whole pile of poop. And yet, I know there is a story about two kids that were put in a room. And one kid was like, oh my gosh, this is so messy. Oh, this is terrible. It was a pile of poop. And he couldn't say enough good. And then the other little kid was like, oh my gosh, there's got to be a pony somewhere in this room because there's a lot of poop. So it's really choosing and recognizing what happens to us, or if you think it's what happens for you. Because that truth is it's for us. It's for our greatest good. And the shift happens within you. You get to decide that. Finishers think differently. Here's the goal. I want to lose weight. Well, how do you identify? I keep promises to myself. The goal, I want to grow a business. Identify. I follow through. The goal, I want more confidence. Well, the identity would be I am a finisher because goals create outcomes and identity creates consistency. Again, goals create outcomes and identity creates consistency. And finishers think differently. So here's the challenge. Finish one thing today. I don't want you to leave tonight with 10 goals. I want you to leave with one unfinished commitment, one conversation, one project, one promise, one thing. Because confidence isn't built through motivation. Confidence is built through evidence. Every completed promise teaches your brain, I can trust myself. Every completed promise rebuilds your identity. Every completed promise creates momentum. So challenge, write down one thing you'll finish within the next 24 hours. Not a week, not next month, tomorrow. And the truest part of 24 hours, tomorrow, by 7:30 tomorrow night, because confidence is built by completion. The finish line. Ooh, this one's rich. The world celebrates talent, but talent doesn't determine who finishes. Talent doesn't determine who succeeds. Talent doesn't determine who transforms. The finish line belongs to those who keep showing up. The finish line belongs to those who keep going when it would be easier to stop. The finish line belongs to those who refuse to quit on themselves. And tonight, that's my invitation to you. Not to become more talented, not to become more gifted, not to become more qualified, but to become someone who keeps their word to themselves. Because confidence is built by completion. Your next level is waiting on the other side of following through. So the finish line doesn't belong to the most talented, it belongs to those who refuse to quit. Confidence is built by completion. So here's a question for you. What would change in your life if you completely trusted yourself again? Now imagine, if you were to close your eyes, imagine that you could become who you could become if you started rebuilding that trust, one completed promise at a time. What would change in your life if you completely trusted yourself again? What if you imagined you could become if you started rebuilding that trust, one completed promise at a time? And the greatest chance and choice that we have is the decision that we get to make. And what is so beautiful is the fact that we get to choose that, and we have the support system here in the Worthy Collective to make sure that we can cheer you on through the process, because empowerment is made by one tiny step, and yet we're all making our own step up the mountain, on the stairwell, and yet we can invite others to come along with us because it's in the areas of health, wealth, or relationships. Those are the areas that we have the greatest amount of adjustments that we can all make. And usually if we make it in our health, it changes our wealth. And we do it in our wealth, it changes our health. And we do it in our health, it changes our relationships. We look at things differently because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And when you make a promise to yourself and you keep a promise to yourself, then that is a snowball effect. It's called a self-actualizing moment. I actually said I was going to do that, and I did that. And then you come together like we do within the Worthy Collective, and we celebrate you and we celebrate that success, because your environment matters so much more than you could ever imagine. And we all have negative Nellies. We all have them because they're normal. They're, um, there's another one, what is it? Charlie. Who do you call Charlie? Challenges Charlie. They're gonna pay. There's a challenge. There's a challenge. And the difference is, silly Sally's gonna come along too. And knowing that they're there in your life, you're not the only one that's gonna have those, but those that you keep close to you, are they gonna light your fire? Are they gonna recommend this? Options and choices, suggestion people like we were talking about before, like Bree has the meditations. That is a resource. That's a tool to really center yourself and be able to take the time to heal within your mind, the monkey mind. It's not going to heal on its own. You've got to do something about it. And she literally dropped those for us all, 10 under 10 minutes. They're beautiful. And so there's tons of resources, tons of tools, and we are here for you. And now we're going to stop the recording, because this is where, when you're live, you get to have all the good stuff, all the private stuff. So we wish you were here with us live, and we know when you are ready, we will be here to celebrate you. And we hope this message finds you in a beautiful way. And we're not saying that we're the masters of anything. We are all approaching everything with grace, love, and prayer. And we get better every single day. And the greatest gift that we give ourselves is the quickness between the decisions, the opportunity that we need to nap, when we need to pray, when we need to meditate. We do it and we keep moving, keep moving.